Welcome to the Natural Capital Podcast, produced as part of the Farm Advisory Service in association with the Scottish Government. My name's Harry Fisher, the host of the podcast, and over the course of this season we'll be exploring topics related to Scottish natural capital, including what this means, its value to society and farmland, and the pressures and opportunities currently facing it. To do this, we speak to a wide range of people currently working and operating within this space, from farmers putting the work in on the ground, scientific institutes looking to put research into practice, and government and industry putting funding into actions that can make change. Today we are joined by Anna Griffin and Jonathan Olandi from the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere to talk a bit about the Biosphere, what it is and what they do, and their upcoming on-farm plans integrating nature project. Hi guys, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I was wondering if you could just kick us off to give a bit of an introduction for both of you, just a bit about what you do, kind of your career background and why you do it.
Hi Harry, lovely to be here. So I'm Anna Griffin and I grew up in Dumfries and Galloway. My family's from the Galloway area, and I went to university and discovered I liked botany and plants. So I actually studied botany for a degree, an MSc in ecology to widen up my experience, and then I did a PhD in moorland restoration at Liverpool. And then I got tempted back to work at catchment scale at University of Glasgow, and then I worked at SEPA for a long time, 25 years. And this nature recovery job came up at the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere, and I applied for it and got it. So I was really chuffed to be returning to my roots and also to be able to apply all the knowledge and experience that I've gained working across, the UK and Scotland in the particular place that I love. So I'll introduce Jonathan. Go for it.
Hi there, my name is Jonathan Olandi, and I'm the new Natural Capital Officer for the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire UNESCO Biosphere. So first of all, can I just say I'm a big fan of this podcast. I've been listening to it for some months now. I've been working my way back from the most recent episodes, and I have to say even the ones from previous years are still really current, and I still get really useful information from them. So it's a pleasure to be asked on here today. I work for the Biosphere, for the UNESCO Biosphere in Galloway and Southern Ayrshire. I grew up on a dairy farm in Italy, in the Alps. So my background is from a traditional dairy farm, and I moved to the UK about 10, 11 years ago now to study. And got a job as a park ranger a few years ago in London, which kind of brought me over to land management and conservation. And I worked a lot in species recovery, engagement in nature, and conservation and habitat restoration. So really, I've spent a lot of my life getting people excited about nature, getting people really to understand how we interact with nature, what the importance of nature is to us as human beings and for our businesses, for our survival. And so when this position at the Biosphere came up to lead on a project to do with natural capital on farms, I thought that was a great opportunity to move to this amazing area and start applying both my background knowledge as a farmer and my recently acquired knowledge and skills as a ecological surveyor, as a conservationist, and as and working in engagement. So really the project that I'm here to talk about today, which is on-farm plans integrated with nature, a bit of a mouthful, but OPIN for short, is about that. It's about getting farms into the conversation about natural capital and working towards transitioning towards and working with the land and building sustainability and resilience.
No, it's great to have you both on the podcast, a real kind of diversity of backgrounds, Anna, like you say, coming kind of almost full circle back to your roots, and Jonathan coming in with a fresh perspective. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about the Biosphere itself? Obviously this is for Galloway and South Ayrshire, but for anybody who doesn't know what this means, can you give us a bit more information about this?
Yeah. So the biosphere reserves are learning places for sustainable development. And they're sites for testing interdisciplinary approaches and understanding and managing changes and interactions between social and ecological systems. So they are places where sustainability is key. And there's a place where we can look at the global challenges we've got and derive local solutions with businesses and communities. They were first designated way back in 1976, and that was due to their core areas, two special core areas in the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire district. And then in the 90s, the agenda around Rio and the Rio de Janeiro Sustainability Convention, they became more important and gained special focus as part of a UNESCO Man and Biosphere programme. And it's a global programme, and there's several maps online if you Google them to show you the global family of the UNESCO biospheres. But basically, wherever you go somewhere special, there's UNESCO Biosphere. And so we're extremely lucky to live and work in the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire one. So, yeah, it's a collaborative approach with a kind of triangle between nature, businesses, and the community, with sustainability in that sort of centre part of the triangle. That's the sort of kind of notation I've been using to describe it to people. There's two core areas that are central to the designation. That's silver flow, which is the most important and varied, least disturbed system of patterned blanket bog in Britain. So it's extremely important. It's an essential part of the UNESCO designation. Multiple layers of nature designations from SSSI right up to Ramsar site. So Silver Flow, this peatland is a core area, and also Merrick Fells, which is an SAC, a special area conservation, and is the most extensive part of representation of wet heath in the UK. That's outside the Scottish Highlands, so it's really important. It's the best developed area of siliceous alpine and boreal grasslands in the southern uplands, and the most southerly of the oceanic blanket bogs in the west of Scotland. So we are sort of like a special sort of limit to blanket bog, to wetland, and to extensive wet heath. Okay, so really special environment, which is pretty pristine, although it does have challenges. And in that area, there are some key river catchments that use that area as their headwaters. And so the biosphere was formed from the designation around this core area and the headwaters out to a buffer and a transition zone. So it's around about 9,700 kilometres squared of area, and it includes the marine area too. So there's a huge area of marine that was included not so long ago.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That was kind of leading on to my next question, which was, what makes Galloway and South Ayrshire distinct, and why did it get its designation? But you've kind of touched on that there. It was the two, was it the
Yeah,
Silver Flow and the Merrick
Silver
Falls,
Flow and Merrick
um,
Kells. Yeah,
Merrick Kells.
yeah,
Yeah, that's I didn't know that's the reason for the designation, and it's the designation, this kind of idea that make people more aware of this unique habitat that maybe some people have a livelihood dependent on, and it's providing all these benefits to the communities in the surrounding areas. It's kind of
yeah,
getting them engaged and understanding the uniqueness of this habitat and how
yeah.
they maybe rely on it.
Certainly, with us at Nature Recovery, yeah. But there's also that working with communities and businesses for a sustainable approach. Because nature is good for business. And like I said, this triangle is needed to make sure that we benefit from our environment, and the environment is sustainably managed. So it's definitely a two-way conversation between nature and our businesses and communities out there in the UNESCO Biosphere.
And what can you give us a bit of an idea of some of the previous projects that you guys have been involved in that look to kind of take this approach that you spoke of?
Yeah, so great thing about Jonathan and I is that we're new. And so we've been we've been learning about what's actually being delivered. We're a charity, and we've got core funding, which is negotiated sort of like on a program by program basis. So we have key partners at the moment are SOSI, South of Scotland Enterprise, and the three local authorities, so East Ayrshire, South Ayrshire, and Dumfries and Galloway Council, all add into our core funding. And we have some funding from the Garfield Weston Foundation as well. And we mix that and blend that with projects that deliver on, say, different programs that we want to deliver on. And we also accept charity donations. Okay, so we have this blended approach, and our projects obviously deliver on our nature, businesses, and communities triangle, but they also need to deliver on the funding criteria that they have at any one time. So it's quite interesting to see our projects, how they develop over time. At the moment, we've got Jonathan's project, which is the big Borderlands Rural Growth Deal Connected Innovation Natural Capital Innovation Zone project, which has taken years to develop. I have to say, a huge amount of work to get a business case together, to refine the approach, and to get it passed through government. And now it's started. So we can talk about that later. We've got a small tree planting grant that's delivered in Southern Ayrshire, and we mix that in with a red squirrel recovery network HLF bid, which is a large collaboration between Northern England and Southern Scotland to deliver red squirrel engagement across Southern Ayrshire. So that's a really nice one because it kind of adds value to the tree planting grant, and we do woodland engagement and red squirrel engagement as well. We also have elements of delivery in other collaborations like the really big SCAMP, the Solway Coast and Marine Project. We've got elements of community engagement in that. We have a project looking at farmer to farmer connections, and we've just had a really successful conference last week with our partners, NFUS Scotland and Propagate. And we also have a programme of learning for sustainability, including a little Sundew badge, which you can earn and develop a Sundew badge. And we've also got a certification mark as well, where businesses who are working towards sustainability can get accreditation from us at the Biosphere, and then they can use that in their marketing as well. So we're strong on destination tourism, marketing, supporting communities and businesses to be more sustainable in really tangible ways. So it's across the board, and it links to nature mostly at every point too. We've got some great staff on the ground, and when they go out and talk to businesses, they invariably come back with a nature recovery element. So it is really great to connect with everybody and grow things together.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'd seen those Sundew badges about. It's interesting to know that's where it's came from, and the kind of reasoning behind it. You touched a little bit there on the OPIN project that Jonathan's running, the on-farm plans integrating with nature. Would we be able to talk a bit more about this? How did it originate, and the kind of funding behind it, and what it ultimately looks to deliver?
Yes, absolutely. I think I'll step in at this point since I'm the project officer for this particular project. Um, I like that idea of the triangle of the biosphere. So we have nature on one side, we have communities on the other, and we have businesses that are a foundational part of what we're doing. So Dumfries and Galloway, which is where this project will work, uh, is a really unique place, and it offers unique opportunities for farming innovation. So inside the biosphere, and which includes Dumfries and Galloway and Southern Ayrshire, we have double the amount of national employment in the farming sector. Inside this area, we have double the average employment rates in farming sector. So a really interesting area that offers some key opportunities for farming innovation. And I think these opportunities are recognized not just locally, but they're recognized also nationally and internationally, which is why we have a UNESCO Biosphere designation. UNESCO is an offshoot of the United Nations. It's an organization that deals with society, community, and economical growth. And cultural growth as well. And we're in Scotland's only natural capital innovation zone. So that's, again, means that there's funding coming into this area because it's an interesting area to do innovation in farming. So OPIN, On-Farm Plans Integrated with Nature, is a 5-year project that is aimed at testing an innovative natural capital audit methodology on 12 farms in Dumfries and Galloway. The aim is to provide support for farming businesses with setting up whole farm plan data collection, which is set to become a requirement by Rural Payments and Services by 2028. So we're aligning with sort of the Scottish agricultural reform route map with this project. We'll talk a bit more about that later. We're also, through this project, providing capital grant support to trial some nature-friendly and resilient farming interventions. So we're going to be collecting data on farms. We're going to be collecting data that can be used to make decisions, smart business decisions, and then we're going to inject a little bit of funding to test some solutions. So this is really a kind of pilot project for something that then we're hoping will be rolled out on a much greater scale. My hope is that this will be rolled out to every single farm in the biosphere eventually, because the tools that we're looking at are so accessible that they should be able to be used by everyone year on year without any training. As part of this project, we're also providing peer-to-peer knowledge sharing opportunities. So the farms that will be involved, the 12 farms that we have funding for the next 5 years, will also be hopefully sharing knowledge and getting together, because we find that's one of the most effective ways of getting this conversation going, of building more resilient farming. When I talk about natural capital today, what I mean is the stocks of natural resources, so water, soil, air, for example, and the ecosystem services that your certain piece of land provides to you and your business and the people and communities around it. So, for example, nutrient cycling, biodiversity, plants, pollinators, that kind of thing. Those things support food production. So that's what I mean by natural capital, is measuring those things, understanding how they work and how your business depends on them, and then making smart decisions to improve and support those natural cycles, or use them in a better way. Also, the other thing that's included in this definition of natural capital is the social value of the landscape. And this cannot be underestimated, because we get more as human beings from our landscape than just food production and clean water and clean air. We also get it has a history, it has a cultural value to our communities. We get access, we can walk, we get mental health, we get health benefits. So that's another part that we will be looking at through this project. Tourism is obviously a growing area in Dumfries and Galloway, which is also why we've included sort of this particular area of landscape social value in our project. So obviously a lot of listeners will be wondering about natural capital markets and whether this project will be dealing with that. By natural capital markets, I mean the monetization of natural capital credits. for example, frameworks like the Woodland Carbon Code or the Peatland Carbon Code. Those natural capital markets are not the sole objective of this project. We will be looking at those if the landowners that we interact with, that we engage with through the project, are interested in using that as a potential business diversification strategy. They can definitely be a source of income. However, that's not the sole purpose of this project. So we might be looking at those, and our data collecting techniques and protocols align with some of these codes. So we're using the peatland code, for example, if we get farms with peatland, but that's not the sole purpose of this. The main purpose is really to get a holistic idea of how farms are doing, and give farmers the tools they need to look at this themselves, and some support through myself as well to help them on that process. So OPIN is funded by the Scottish Government through the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal, and Dumfries and Galloway Council is facilitating this for us. The Galloway and Southern Ayrshire UNESCO Biosphere is the lead delivery partner, so that's where we are delivering the project. A little bit about how this project was set up over the last couple of years. So it received funding from Borderlands in 2023. I'll go through a couple of things. Don't get lost on all the words I'm using. This is just the boring part to help you see where this project fits in. But the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal, if you haven't heard about it before, I don't blame you. It's a sustainable economic growth project that targets the south of Scotland and the north of England. And actually, if you haven't heard about it before, go and look at this, search it online, Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal. It's actually a pretty historic economical deal, one of the only ones in history that's been made between the Scottish and the UK governments. So the Scottish government and the UK government from London came together and decided that this area required much more investment and was a really interesting area for sustainable development. And so as part of this large fund, and it is a very large fund, there is an objective that's targeting improving natural capital in the area. And our project, OPIN, is delivering in that particular area of the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal. So that's how our project came about, that's who funded it, and that's why we're doing what we do. Because in this area specifically, we've identified a need to innovate on the natural capital front. That's not because we're behind on the rest of the country. Absolutely the opposite. We are ahead, and farmers on the ground who are working and are thinking about this will know that we are leading, not just nationally, but also potentially internationally on this. So it's really exciting. Last year in 2024, the Biosphere received UNESCO funding to partner with Scotland's Rural College to develop a bespoke set of natural capital auditing tools. And that's how the delivery phase of OPIN started, of my project started. We now have a suite of natural capital auditing tools that we're going to be rolling out as part of this project. This year, I have come on board, and I will be starting recruitment of farms over the next couple of weeks and through to next year. And that will really sort of then begin our delivery phase, and we'll be getting out onto farms, baselining farms, and then doing our interventions. So from today, we will be recruiting farms in the Dumfries and Galloway area inside the biosphere. So check on a map, make sure you're in that area, and then at the end of the talk, I'll give you details on how to apply. But that's where we're at with the project.
That's a fantastic overview, and I think your definition of natural capital and ecosystem services is better than I've ever came up with. That was fantastic. It sounds a really interesting project, and thanks for giving basically like a kind of history of how it's came to be. I think that's valuable, and what some people would be interested in knowing, the kind of where the funding's coming from and why it's coming. But I think you framed it really well there. Regarding the OPIN project, you were talking a bit about the baselining of the farms, and this this baselining of the natural capital. Would you be able to tell us what exactly that will look like? Would you be able to walk through what data is going to be gathered through this project?
Absolutely, and this is really the core part of our project is what data is going to be gathered, how, and why is it going to be useful. So I'll walk you through our framework. So last year, together with SRUC, the Biosphere selected, 100 or more tools, natural capital auditing tools, and then selected a few that were tested and were identified as being effective on two different fronts. So creating decision grade data. So decision grade data is data that farmers can actually use and to make business decisions. A lot of time, what we find is that there is a lot of data being collected, carbon audits, for example. That data is then being passed on to the government or ARPID, for example, but it's not necessarily being then used on the ground to make changes or decisions. So what we want to make sure through this framework is that we actually collecting useful data that can then be used. And secondly, the data has to be accessible. So these data collection tools have to be accessible without a lot of complicated or long training. So the framework that we're using is collecting data on 6 different areas: biodiversity, soil, water, carbon emissions and sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions, and finally landscape character and social value. So those are the 6 areas that we are looking at. I'll quickly run you through how we're collecting the data and what tools we're using. So for biodiversity, we're using the NatureScot Farm Biodiversity app. This was developed by NatureScot, and a lot of listeners are probably aware of it already or have used it extensively before. It's an accessible way. Essentially, you can download the app onto your phone, take it out into the field, and create quite a detailed habitat map of your farm. For soil, water, carbon, and greenhouse gases audit, we are using the Soil Association Exchange platform and protocols. So we are using the soil module, the water module, the carbon module, and the peatland code on the Soil Association Exchange platform. This is an app that you can have on your phone or on your laptop. It's online, so you can log into it and visualize all the data that you've entered, and it has instructions on how to collect that data. For example, for carbon auditing, we're using the farm carbon calculator. For landscape character, instead, this will be a on-site and desk-based study. So we will be using NatureScot's LCA maps. We'll be using PastMap and public access mapping from local authority records to create a kind of picture of how the farm fits in with the wider landscape. And as a biosphere, we feel that this is particularly important because we're proud of our biosphere, and we think it has a very unique character and unique landscapes that need to be celebrated and highlighted. And so by creating these kind of holistic reports, we hope that we can identify some important things and point them out to farms that can be worked on. So essentially, these 6 areas will give us a holistic view of how the farm is doing and give us a baseline to then move forward, produce some interventions, and then measure again by re-auditing how those interventions are interacting with the farm's natural capital, identify some trends. So, for example, have we reduced our soil erosion or soil loss or soil compaction? And have we increased opportunities for biodiversity to thrive? It's more of a trend exercise than necessarily comparing between farms. We might do that, but we're more interested in what is happening on the ground and how farmers are engaging with this process, and making sure that it's a positive process that really inspires farmers and landowners and land managers to look at their land under a new light, under a data sort of empirical knowledge gathering light, and make sure that the decisions that they make are based on hard data, as well as they're obviously skill and an instinct that's been built over many, many years. So we're not trying to replace that. We're simply trying to work with what's already there to make it even better.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's a good overview of the different tools that you're going to be using, and the purpose for it. What I was wondering if you could delve a bit more into it. So, the project itself looks at enhancing, each farm for the purpose of the local communities and local societies that all benefit on the natural capital. I want to take it a step back almost and delve into what you think the benefits for each land manager might be in undertaking this. You said, the auditing or the baselining system will tick the box for them for the kind of whole farm plan, by biodiversity audit, carbon audit, the 5 audits that are required. So there's that side of it. Would you be able to talk a bit more? What do you personally think, that a land manager or a farmer can gain through, working in this project and having a better understanding of the natural capital that they produce? Is there opportunities for funding? Is there, opportunities to build resilience into your farm business? What do you see as the benefit for the farms that do take part?
Yeah, so that's the unique offer of this project. It's going to be case by case, and it's got to be good for business. So, and what we're realizing is that actually collecting the data is the kind of easy part. What to do with the data and how to interpret the data and how to make that good for your business is the specialist part. And we can help with that through discussion with the landowner. There's going to be a variety of different measures that we can take. It might be, like you say, a supported funding application. It could be a series of better machinery in your farm, or some sort of kit sharing collaboration. So we're really open to, and forgive the pun, but we are open to any sort of solution that fits your business finance model. Okay, it could be about creating habitat, it could be about linking habitats, and it could be about machinery and on-farm processes. Extra funding, better collaboration, all of these can factor in the solutions, and it's something that we will co-design with the landowner, and the data will guide us. So it's a really great way of doing that. I don't know, Jonathan, do you want to add?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Anna. And thanks, Harry, for the question. I think this is the real, we're getting to the meat of why this project is important. I would just add a couple of things to what Anna's already said, and she's touched on the main points, which are essentially what the project is aiming to deliver for landowners is you get an audit, you get a natural capital baseline for free. You get trained on the various tools that we'll be using, so that stays with you, it stays with your business. And secondly, we have some capital grant funding to do a project that you will co-design with us using the data that we've collected, using your knowledge of your own business and your own farm to make it more efficient and to make it more sustainable and more resilient. And of course, as Anna's already said, that will come from your particular context. This is a bespoke process. We're not trying to prescribe anything. We are trying to find solutions that are bespoke and depend on your particular context. Each farm will be completely different sometimes. So that's why we need this kind of process. I would just add a couple of things. One that's really important to me and to the project is the landowner and the farm manager will maintain control of their data and ownership of their data. I think that's really important because often we feel like we've done all this work, we've collected the data, and then we've sent it off somewhere else to be interpreted. We don't want that to be the case. We want you to feel like you own your data, you understand it, you understand how it's been collected, and you can use it to make meaningful choices. We also will offer admin support. The way that this tool that this suite of tools has been designed is to avoid replication. You're applying to EECS, you need to collect a certain number of things. If you apply to organic certification, you need to collect a whole other set of things. And often these things overlap. Soil samples, for example, you probably need to do for both. Biodiversity samples you'll need to do for your basic payment schemes requirements, and you'll need to do it for EECS. So we're trying to reduce the amount of admin that farmers have to do, and that's where I come in as well, and Anna and I come in as well, as we'll be supporting with that. The project is completely paid for. There is no cost to the business that's partaking. You just need to provide a little bit of your time to engage with the project. And finally, yes, I would underline again the fact that through this project you'll be partnering with the UNESCO Biosphere organization. We have other things attached to the biosphere, like our biosphere certification mark, which was mentioned earlier, which we can help you go through if that's of particular interest to you. So yeah, you'll not just be part of this project and then chucked out. You'll be then partnering with the UNESCO Biosphere and all the kind of other benefits and other attentions that can come from that. So hopefully that's kind of given you an overview of some of the benefits that will come through this directly to farms that are taking part.
It was interesting to hear, that it's not as prescriptive as maybe other schemes or financing models for nature restoration or, positive interventions. Would you be able to give a bit more information or how you see the interventions playing out? What scale could these be? What could these look like? What could each farm expect to potentially implement on their farm?
We've got funding, capital grant funding, for up to £20,000 per farm for the 12 farms that we are signing on to this project. I say up to because we've got to stay flexible as a project, and make sure that we are getting the most value out of the money that we've been allocated. So yes, around the lines of £20,000 per farm, but we will be treating each case, individually, and we will do our best as well to try and include other external funding if possible. So one of the things that we can do to support through this project is support with other grant applications, but that should give you a size of the kind of interventions that we're talking about. So we'll try to get the most value out of it. That's kind of the range that we're talking about. If we can bring external funding, we will. It'll also look really good for us, because if we can partner with other organizations, with other funders, we can get even more done on your land, given that that's what we're here to do. And again, I would stress that it's not just about creating space for nature on your farm. That's really not what we're trying to focus on. We're trying to focus on making sure that we are transitioning from more intensive farming practices to more resilient farming practices, and those could even be really small changes. For example, we could be acquiring some virtual fencing collars for your cattle, if that's to do mob grazing, if that's something you've been thinking about implementing, but the money involved has been a barrier up till now, or the time involved in planning that or getting expertise on site to try and figure that out, then that's something we can support with, and that we'd be really excited to support with. Another example could be, if you're thinking of implementing some agroforestry and you really want to plant some trees, but you want to have a crop that will work for your business and you can actually add to your business and diversify, then that's a really interesting thing as well. I guess I would throw the question back at you, Harry, where this is an area that we're also exploring and staying flexible on. So I know that you farm and your family farms. If you have any ideas or if you have any comments on this, then it would be great to hear your feedback as well.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to hear the different things that you are willing to fund. The no fence collars. I think a lot of people are interested in these as a method of kind of being more flexible with their grazing, specifically in kind of rougher habitats. And yeah, we kind of spoke about it the other day about agroforestry and the potential to introduce, fruit trees essentially into farmland. I always think that would be a fantastic way of almost getting one more benefit out of agroforestry than you already get, that you already get. So no, it's definitely something that there's plenty of scope and plenty of opportunity to be quite creative, I imagine. And I think that's the benefit of doing it a farm by farm example, is that I think every farmer will have a creative idea up their sleeve of something that they think they could do that would not only benefit, be it biodiversity, water quality, carbon, but would also benefit their business, and they see it as quite a nice win-win. So I think that's quite a good approach to be taking
It's
at it.
exciting.
Yeah,
It's exciting to think of all the different things that they'll come up with. And because we've got, well, we're saying 12, but it could be more than that. We've got 12. We're going to have some really great, numbers in there to measure success and to share, what worked and what didn't work. So it's going to be so exciting.
yeah.
Absolutely, and I would throw this out to listeners as well, wherever you are. If you are doing something really interesting that you'd like to share, send us an email. Look on our Biosphere website, Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere, and send us an email and let us know what you're doing, and to let us know your thoughts on this project as well. Any feedback is massively appreciated and will help drive this forward even more. So please do get in touch.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, I mean, you were saying that was it's kind of part of the project, and one of the biosphere's kind of ambitions as well was this kind of idea sharing, and I think that's a really great thing to get this, get all the good ideas that are out there, and get them shared, and think, oh, maybe I could do that in my farm as well. I think that you're talking about there's a hunger for just investment in innovation. I mean, we saw with the future farming investment scheme being so massively oversubscribed, with just about every farm has got an idea of what they could do to make things better for their farm business and for the environment around them. It's just a case of getting the money to do it. So it's great that this is the direction of travel, I think. For any farmers that are listening, and this has piqued their interest, what can they do to get involved? And also, what kind of farms is it that you are looking to get involved in the scheme? Is it any farm? Is it upland sheep farming? Is it dairy farming? Is it small holdings? Is it big scale? Is there a kind of ideal farm that you'd like in it, or is it a bit of a mix of everything?
So we are asking all farmers in the Dumfries and Galloway and Biosphere area. So make sure you check those borders. But if you are in that area and you are interested in applying, then we only have two very simple requirements. We're looking for farms that are over 100 acres, so about 40 hectares of size, and that run a commercial farming business or enterprise. No matter how diversified that is, anything is fine, any model is fine. We are looking to select 12 farms over the next 5 years. So we will select 3 farms next spring and then follow on with 9 farms in 2027. That's kind of our timeline, but we are looking for any different farming model and type. We obviously want to try and capture a representative sample of farms from the Dumfries and Galloway area. So that will obviously include dairy farming and mixed farming, and some hill farming and some coastal farming. So don't worry if you're not right in the middle of Dumfries and Galloway. Even if you're on the edges, that's perfectly fine. So yeah, smaller scale and also larger scale, and also that includes different types of enterprises like tourism enterprises or a bit of forestry. That will still qualify, and we'd be interested to hear from you.
We've got to be prepared to be on a bit of a journey with us because this is new, and we may have to come back and redo things, and we may need to try different methods. So it's going to be a two-way conversation. We haven't done this before, so we're looking for people who want to go on a journey with us on this. But we're clear what we want at the end, this sort of decision grade data that's usable with some tangible end outcome. But so we're looking for people who want to be part of a journey.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Yes, we our project will run for 5 years, starting from this year. So yeah, we're really interested in farms that are willing to go along with us on this. Start off with our baseline, develop a project with us to implement on their land, and then follow up with some future auditing. And who knows how this will grow, and how policy will change over the next few years. We're doing everything we can. We're keeping our ear to the ground to make sure that everything we're doing is aligning with sort of Scottish agricultural reform route map. But things might change, and we've got to be flexible. So yeah, we're definitely excited to get people on board that are willing to walk that path, and who will really benefit from our support, and we will from theirs. To sign up, we will be releasing an application form this week. So that will be a very simple form that you can access online, or if you need support with accessing it online or need a paper copy, just get in touch by email or by phone. I think the best way to do this is to email myself, the project officer. So please get in touch if you're interested in applying in this project. Go to our website, www.gsabiosphere, that's biosphere.org.uk, and go to the Contact Us tab, and then drop us an email or a phone call, and we'll share the application form with you, or give you more information and have a chat with you. Come down to your farm and take a look. That would be great.
Great, that's clear how to get in touch, and the kind of timeline. But what I was wanting to ask is, you said this week this podcast might go out a bit after this. Can you give us a bit of a timeline of, when does application start, when does it finish, when do you look to do your kind of first 3 farm visits? What is the timeline of this project essentially?
So we are starting our application process this week, which is the second last week of November 2025. We will be taking applications all the way until probably mid-January 2026. So over the Christmas period, if you don't have anything to do and you're sitting at home when it's bad weather, fill out the short application form. It'll take you maximum 15 minutes. We're just interested in hearing from you, hearing your ideas, and getting some contact details off you so we can get in touch. So it's a very simple thing. And then towards the end of January, we will be getting in touch with the farms that we've shortlisted, and organizing some site visits to come down and meet you in person. So that's the general timeline for our first round of farms. Again, we're looking for about 3 in 2026, but we will be continuing this process into 2027. So if you hear this podcast later in the year, you haven't missed anything, you can still get in touch and show your interest. I'm also keen that the farms that don't get selected, because we only have a limited numbers of places available, I'm keen to make sure that the farms who are interested but don't get selected, that they're taken along on the journey as well. So do get in touch. I will keep a list of farms who have shown interest, and make sure that we share the information that comes out of OPIN with you. We can share the methodology, and we can get in touch and have a chat about how it can help you as well. We might just not be able to run the entire project on your farm because we only have 12 places, but we want you still to be part of the journey, and we want to be able to share this knowledge with you and this process with you, because we think it's really important that it's applied to the entire area, and we think it could work really well.
That's great. Thanks for giving that information, and thanks for coming on the podcast today. Be really interested to see how this project goes, and kind of follow up with it potentially in another episode once you guys have got your kind of first farm visits done, and maybe some implementations put in place. But thanks again for coming on the podcast and tell us a bit about the Biosphere and the new OPIN project.
Thank you very much, Harry. Really look forward to the next episode as well. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Thanks so much for today.
Grand. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Natural Capital Podcast. If you want to find out more on everything we have discussed, you can find links in our show notes, and more information is available on the Farm Advisory Service website. You can listen to all previous episodes of the Natural Capital podcasts and all other series produced for Fast Sounds on any podcast provider or wherever you are listening to this one. You can access a wide variety of other resources on the Fast Sounds page and the Farm Advisory Service website. I've been your host Harry Fisher, producer is Ian Boyd, executive producer Kerry Hammond and Kirsten Blackwood, and our editor is Kieran Sim. The Natural Capital podcast is produced for Fast Sounds as part of the Farm Advisory Service in association with the Scottish Government.
The Farm Advisory Service podcast. Audio advice on livestock, crops and soils, environment, rural business, and more. Brought to you in association with the Scottish Government.